Jungle.
When it comes to the Constitution, is what is did you used to call yourselves the the what term did you used to call yourselves, Senator, when you and Paul Mangwana, were you the chairman of the COPAC thing, or
The co-chairs.
the co-chairs? Yes,
Yes.
yes. So the co-chair of the COPAC responsible for this constitution, that we had. So I mean, um, I don't want to use this space to go into history pertaining to who Senator Douglas Monzora is. We have come to know who he is, but we want to focus on the matter at hand. And so, Senator, if I can give you this opportunity to just greet our listeners, and then we can get into it.
Yeah, greetings to all Zimbabweans who are listening on this space. And my apologies, I could not connect with you earlier, although I was trying. I was hearing everything and seeing everything, but for some reason you were not seeing me. So we are again at this point in our in the history of our country where we have to deal with a man-made problem. The ZANU-PF Congress in 2000 in Mutare came up with what they call resolution number 1, which is the resolution to extend the term of office of President Mnangagwa and to direct the Minister of Justice, Mr. Ziyambi, to facilitate that. What is very, very clear is that Zimbabweans are opposed to the extension of term. What is also clear is that there are a lot of arguments regarding this issue that don't make sense at all. And with all due respect to the lawyers concerned, some of them are not reading the Constitution the way they should do. When you are reading the Constitution, you read it as one document. You read it as a whole. So there is the text of the Constitution. There is also what is called the spirit of the Constitution. And then there is what is called the intention of the lawmakers. And today I want to deal with the debate that has been happening between, I think, Advocate Tabani Mpofu and Mr. Tawanda Nyambirai.
Nyambirai, yes.
Mr. Nyambirai is arguing that, in fact, it is possible to amend the Constitution without going to referendum. So I want to deal with that. And I'm sorry, I may sound boring because it's going to be quite a lot of law. But let me start with Section 90 of the Constitution. Section 90 of the Constitution, subsection 1, gives the president the duty to uphold, defend, obey, and respect the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. And he must ensure that the Constitution and other laws are faithfully enforced. So the duty of our state president is to uphold and defend the Constitution. And then you go to Section 91, subsection 1. It says, it gives the disqualifications of a person from holding the office of president. And it says a person is disqualified from contesting the office of president if he has served 2 terms, whether continuous or not. So the moment you have served 2 terms, you are disqualified from standing as president. That's the term limit. So that is part 2 of the Constitution, very, very clear. So many lawyers are making a mistake on just relying on part 2 of the Constitution. And I must give a background. Both Mangwana, myself, and the drafters were wary of ZANU-PF rejecting the term limit and therefore wanting to see whether there was a lacuna or not. So we then took the amendment to the Constitution to
Senator, can you explain to folks they might not understand what a lacuna is? Can you briefly explain that, please? Senator Monzora. Right. Mof, is he speaking?
No, it's gone
No, it's
quiet.
not.
Nainam
Yeah,
Gracia was Daura Nai.
I know.
I can hear you now.
All right,
All
okay.
right.
So I was saying, can you briefly explain to us what a lacuna is? Because some folks, they might not understand what that is.
Oh, thank you very much. A lacuna is a gap in the law. It is an omission in the law. So the various scholars, various lawyers were then saying that there is a gap in the law, there is an omission in the law. And the omission, the law does not say, the Constitution does not say that there is need for a referendum. I just want to explain how wrong they are. So in order to hide this clause, we put it in chapter 18. Chapter 18 is section 3. Is a term limit provision, and it says a term limit provisions means a provision of this Constitution which limits the length of time that a person may hold public office. So we define the term limit. And then if you go to section 328, subsection 2, it says that once there is a constitution bill, the speaker must give the nation 90 days notice. And then if we go to to the same section, the people of Zimbabwe, through public hearings, must comment on the bill, must be given the opportunity to comment on the bill. And then after that, Parliament must vote by 2/3 majority of both the Senate and the National Assembly to okay the Constitution amendment. In other words, the Parliament this. The logic of that was that you could still stop the constitutional amendment at Parliament level by making sure that those who want the amendment do not score 2/3 majority. Then after that, we go to subsection 6. Subsection 6 says, where the amendment seeks to amend chapter 4 deals with the human rights, or chapter 16, which deals with land, then there is need for a referendum. Then it goes on to say in subsection 7 that if the amendment is for extension of term, that extension shall not benefit the incumbent. So if you are amending the Constitution to extend a term limit, then that amendment shall not benefit the incumbent. It's very, very clear. And then it goes on to say that if there is an amendment, that is subsection 8, and that amendment involves, I'm summarizing, the extension of term and then the benefit by the incumbent, then there must be 2 referendums. And it is very, very clear that it is referring to 2 referendums. One referendum is for extension of term. The other referendum, of course, is for the benefit of the incumbent. And then, importantly, it says in subsection 9, this section is may be amended only by following the procedures set out in subsection 3, 4, 5, 6, as if this were in chapter 4. Now, I need to explain there. It is saying that to amend this section, you must take all the procedures that are contained in section 328 as if they were chapter 4. Now, our constitution is very, very clear that if you want to amend the Bill of Rights, you go to referendum. Now, by saying that when you amend this constitution, this part of the constitution, you amend it as if it was chapter 4. You amend it as if it was a Bill of Rights thing. And therefore, you go for referendum. This is where the lawyers are losing it. That is why we made reference to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is amendable only in terms of a referendum. Then we imported that to say when amending this section, you amend it the same way you amend chapter 4. And chapter 4 is amended via the referendum. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is another argument that the lawyers are losing in their debate, and that is that any extension of term violates human rights. They violate section 67 of the Constitution. And section 67 of the Constitution, subsection 1, gives Zimbabweans the right to elect office bearers and gives them the right to elect as provided in the Constitution. Now, this Constitution that we have gives Zimbabweans the right to elect leaders after every 5 years, including the president. Now, if you are to extend the term of office of president by 2 years, you have deprived the Zimbabweans the right, their constitutional right, to elect a leader for those 2 years or for those 5 years by simply making an amendment. So you have violated the right of Zimbabweans to elect, and therefore you have amended chapter 4 of the Constitution. And when you amend chapter 4 of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, you ought to go to referendum. Then secondly, under section 67, which is in the Bill of Rights, it is said every Zimbabwean has the right to be elected to public office in terms of this constitution. So a presidential hopeful has the right to participate in the presidential election. So take example of Mr. Monzora. He is eyeing to contest in 2028, and he has the right to contest in 2028. If you then say that we are deferring that right, we are deferring the election by another 2 years, you have deprived Mr. Monzora of his constitutional right. You have amended the Bill of Rights. And when you seek to amend the Bill of Rights, for whatever reason, you go to referendum. There is absolutely no question about it. So Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take you a bit back again. Chinamasa, during the ZANU-PF conference last year, made it clear that there will be 2 referendums. He made it clear in a press, in a submission to his party, and it was televised. He knew that there was Section 328. He knew that in order to amend Section 328, you amend it in the same manner that you amend the Bill of Rights. And he knew that the Bill of Rights can only be amended via a referendum. So in the case of President Mnangagwa, we will have to have 2 constitutional amendments. The first constitutional amendment will be one to extend the presidential term. It does not mention anybody's name. It simply says in the referendum question, because a referendum is an answer to questions. So there is a referendum question, and the referendum question will simply be, should the president's term be amended to be extended by a further 2 years or not? Zimbabwe then vote yes or no. That's referendum number 1. Then there is need again to amend the subsection 7, which says the amendment, even if it is made, cannot benefit the incumbent. And you need to amend that again. You cannot, in terms of subsection 9, make the same the 2 amendments in one constitutional bill. So you will have to have a second constitutional bill, which is now person specific. Should Emmerson Mnangagwa benefit from the extension of term, yes or no? So there will be 2 referendums, 2 processes. And in fact, there will be the first, which deals with the speaker giving 90 days notice, and then the second being people of Zimbabwe accepting or rejecting during a public outreach, and then there will be 2/3 majority to be attained in parliament, and then there will be a referendum. The first referendum, as I said, to extend the term of office. The second referendum, again, the second amendment, will have to have 90 days notice by the speaker to the people of Zimbabwe, followed by an outreach, Zimbabweans commenting whether they accept or not. Then in number 3, Zimbabweans attaining a 2/3 majority in parliament. By parliament, I mean both houses, the Senate and the National Assembly. And then after that, subjecting that constitutional amendment voted for by parliament to public assent via a referendum. So I fail to understand where the confusion is hiding, is emanating from. Once you accept that for you to amend the Bill of Rights, you have to amend via referendum, you ought to understand the clause that says that this section shall be amended the same way as you amend the Bill of Rights, i.e. via a referendum. Now, the people of Zimbabwe, of course, are almost unanimous, especially within the opposition, to reject this. The MDC was the first to have the press conference in January this year, followed by a press conference that we did a few days ago. And quite a number of voices within the opposition were silent. Maybe people did not take seriously that seriously. That ZANU-PF was determined to amend the constitution. And we are heartened to notice that there are a number of people coming up speaking against this amendment. We welcome that. But there is one important thing. We must never exclude one another when we deal with these things. And it is incumbent upon Zimbabweans to bury the petty political differences and speak with one voice. And therefore, it would have been very good for SAPES to include myself, to include Dr. Maduku, to include Welshman Ngobe. These are people who, in one way or the other, who were involved in the crafting of the Constitution.
akatizochera mukati mekurarama mugoma wangu manwa vakaramba kugarira maoko nanhasi vanofamba nawo msinga tinovapiga zvangu eni majega mapenda mumasveti zuva nezuva kukwira nekudzika zvakaoma eni tinokupigai zvangu kani boizika ngati matende mokomaranda emi maazela ngati mapige mokomaranda ende zvanobata utumari munhu zvimwe zvacho airamba.
I was seated opposite him and he was listening to me together. He was also going through his copy of the draft constitution. There ought to be referendum. But Zimbabweans must expect ZANU-PF to try to avoid this. Is because half of ZANU-PF that is clear from the reaction of ZANU-PF people. And then also the opposition, the civil society are unanimous on the rejection of this constitution amendment. But most importantly, to people who are patriots, to people who love their country, this constitution amendment that does damage to our reputation before the international community. It brings us to the fore as a pariah state, as an international joke, as an international laughing stock. That's number one. And we don't deserve that. Mnangagwa must not put me as Douglas Monzora, as a citizen of this country, through that shame. We don't deserve it. He must not put you through that shame and through that ignominy. So the international ignominy that will go through is unfathomable, unbelievable. That's number one. Number two, we all know now that the Commonwealth is considering Zimbabwe's rejoining the club. And it is fundamentally important for our people that we should rejoin the Commonwealth. Number one, ease of travel, development grants, the Commonwealth market, access to credit, support for our athletes, and scholarships for our students. So the benefits are unfathomable, and we should rejoin the Commonwealth. But the Commonwealth has put a condition that we must not tamper with our constitution. Now, President Mnangagwa, for the sake of power and for the sake of I don't know, wants to throw away all of that, all those benefits for Zimbabwe, for the sake of the 2 years that he is seeking. And why is he seeking those 2 years? Why is it fundamentally important that he should do that? He has been in government since Zimbabwe attained independence. And there is nothing new that he is going to do. But we have an explanation on why President Mnangagwa is advocating for the third term. This is because President Mnangagwa is no longer that one man that you see on television. That's not President Mnangagwa anymore. President Mnangagwa is now a group of people, is a group of rich, corrupt people who are siphoning the wealth of this country and who are trading our wealth with other nations, and they are making a killing. These are the people who are now within the decision-making matrix of the president. Just like in the last days, President Mugabe was no longer that, excuse my word, that small man that you used to see. President Mugabe was now a group of people. So when we are fighting against the amendment, we are not fighting against one person. It is a group of people who are running the affairs of the country. It is a group of people who have captured the state. That is why we in the MDC, when attacking this problem, we say we are fighting state capture. We are fighting state corruption, international corruption, even. We are fighting the privilege that now is exclusively for Chinese nationals. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have our Boterekwa anymore. For you who are in the diaspora, who last came to Zimbabwe and visited Chirugwi, Boterekwa is no more. It's not there anymore. It has been desecrated by people who are taking mineral wealth in its raw form and exporting it to develop other countries. For those of us who still remember the Christmas past, it is being desecrated day in, day out. For those of us who have once visited Dowendale, Dowendale is now a land of dangerous pits. They mine the chrome and they do not reclaim the land. They do not rehabilitate the land. They just take the chrome, put it in its raw form on the trucks all the way to Beira or Mombasa. So, ladies and gentlemen, this constitution amendment is extremely dangerous and we must not allow it. And in fighting this constitution amendment, it is important that we rely on each other's collective wisdom. We must not allow civil society to divide the political parties by preferring other people at the expense of others. That is very, very wrong. It's a wrong approach. And it will just split the opposition to the third term. So it is my hope that we are going to speak with one voice. Speaking of my party, it has already started the campaign for against the 2030 agenda, and we are rolling out pamphlets. I think we start tomorrow. We have some regalia that we have prepared to conscientize people to say no to the 2030 agenda. And over the weekend, we are launching this opposition to the 2030 agenda in Chiredzi at one of the places. Yes, it is important to have press conferences, incredibly important. But what is important is to educate the Zimbabwean common men and women on why we are fighting this 2030, on why this 2030 is an affront to their rights, and how it is going to be a violation of their rights. So it is a violation of Section 67, and therefore it is a violation of the Bill of Rights. Amendment to it means that you are amending the Bill of Rights. At any rate, when you amend this section, you amend it in the same manner that you amend the Bill of Rights. I hope I have answered my learned colleagues within the legal fraternity regarding whether there will be a referendum or not. If this amendment has to have any form of legality, it will have to go via referendum. And there are so many safeguards. The 90-day period, voting in parliament, I just hope that our MPs, especially those in the opposition, are going to vote like opposition MPs. Because if they do, then it is impossible for ZANU-PF to obtain a 2/3 majority. ZANU-PF has a 2/3 majority in the National Assembly only. In the Senate, ZANU-PF does not command a 2/3 majority. So it is possible using the current MPs from the opposition to block this at parliamentary level by simply having opposition MPs, especially in the Senate, voting against this amendment. If they do that, ZANU-PF will not attain a 2/3 majority. So it has a 2/3 majority in the National Assembly, but it does not have a 2/3 majority in the Senate. So it is possible. But assuming that the MPs or MPs want an end 2 years or 5 years, then the last bastion of defense is the people of Zimbabwe, acting as a collective. And I want to end here by calling for unity of all progressive forces in Zimbabwe, those in the opposition.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.